Okay, I'm here with Corey, and we are talking to Voltage.Digital. You're the president and CEO. Thanks for joining, Corey. I really appreciate it. When did you start? Take us back a little.
Yeah, so I have a little bit of a different entrepreneurial journey than many. The agency was founded by two original co-founders in 2005. And while I had had my own freelance LLC over the years, my real journey took off when I acquired the agency as an employee just a few years ago, or several years ago now. I went through an employee to owner transition after working my way up and running the company and then buying out one of the remaining partners.
No kidding. So how does that conversation go? Because it's like you're speaking to your boss, and sometimes it's like your dad, and it's like, hey, well, it's just a natural progression. But if it's like your boss, it's not so natural, and you're basically saying that, hey, I think I can run this company better than you can. How about I buy it? That's like the undertone.
Yeah, no, there was a lot of trust in terms of, as I was working my way up in terms of managing a new function that they had hired me into the agency to kind of start and given access and transparency into numbers. And I naturally wanted that. I wanted to be able to quantify how what my team was doing was impacting the company. And so the trust I was given and the autonomy I was given was really helpful and really healthy, and allowed me to really start thinking like an owner and asking questions. And it just led to a lot of open conversation in terms of the books and how we were doing and what we were doing. And naturally, I think is important for all of my staff and employees just in general, of understanding where you want to be and personally in your career in the next 3, 5, 10 years, and where the company is going, and making sure there's alignment there. So through a really deep relationship and through kind of all those steps over the years, and working my way up to ultimately to the president role, all those factored into it. It wasn't an overnight.
Sure.
I know people where it was an overnight, hey, deep conversation goes from surface to deep level, but for me it was a build up and through a relationship that was built there with the company and with the individual who I ended up buying out.
Gotcha. When you're acquiring a company, there's various different ways to structure that deal. There's like the creative financing where it's like, we'll pay you from the upcoming revenue over the next year or two, but we need you to stick around for the company and kind of work as a worker kind of thing, or a consultant for a while, or you can just pay them outright and just show them the door. That's kind of challenging and risky, I would imagine, because an owner, regardless of how long they've been running the company, they know things that employees just don't. They know a little bit of the background, they know where the skeletons are, maybe some bad customers, whatever the case is. So what was that structure look like when you were taking over the company?
Yeah, we had a combination of financing sources, naturally. I can't go into too many of the details, but on that front, but I could definitely share it if it's of interest, kind of some of the navigating that. But for us, in terms of getting there, the due diligence piece was not difficult because I was running the company day to day. I was overseeing most of the operations. I was leading new business. And so some of those big categories that have a lot of the risks associated with them, or where you're looking for skeletons in closets, I was aware of pretty much all of it at that point. But what's great is it wasn't a rush thing, right? So for a few years, I was working in that kind of seat, and the last step was to cross the line of ownership or getting through that transaction. And even that process, working with some people I admire a lot who work specifically in the agency, marketing agency space, ad agency space, they coached us through it, and we still had a 1-year transition.
A 1-year transition.
Even after I had been kind of in that leadership seat for a couple of years.
Nice. Okay, so the 1-year transition, you are now taking over essentially of the company, meaning that it's now your culture, your traditions, your standard operating procedures that are being instilled upon the rest of the workers there and your peers that are now working for you. So what are some of the major muscle movements that you made over that year that you think led to where the culture of the company is today?
Yeah, in that so we went through a year leading up to it to get people, to strategically kind of announce to the staff and then to clients and whatnot. And then after we closed on it, during that period, there was a lot more stepping back by the previous owner and I, anything that I wasn't already controlling, I took full control of. And so it was pretty natural on the back end of it, backside of it. The one change, and probably the biggest challenge for me, was I love to look at things from every angle. I probably overthink things, and there's some
Okay.
perfectionism.
Yeah.
And so I had to get used to making solo decisions and understanding the risk of, if I stall and delay on a decision for a month or two, or don't make a decision, seeing the risk in that of indecision versus making a wrong, small decision today that could be, rolled back tomorrow if need be. And so as people were coming exclusively to me and I didn't have somebody else to bounce things off of, that's where I had to, that was probably the biggest adjustment for me and for everybody to get used to, is some of the decision process and how that would go. And so the first 6 months, I learned a lot of lessons around that personally.
Yeah, for sure. I would say, the analogy that comes to mind is like going through a maze. So if you're going through a maze and you take your time on every turn that you make, it's just going to take an exponentially long time getting through that maze. Versus if you're just like constantly just picking off walls, maybe that's not like the best result because everybody's following you and they're all kind of like disheveled. So maybe like a happy medium, if you keep a nice little rhythm through a maze, you can kind of get through it pretty quickly. And if you're at like a, Chili's or, one of those restaurants, you can get through the maze before the food shows up, right?
Yeah.
But if you're sitting there going, I don't know if I should take a left, it's like quite challenging.
Well, and a lot of those decisions were with the goal of not making big changes. I wanted a year of just stability and to get settled. And the following 2 or 3 years, which are still continuing, were where I finally decided that the incremental things and the small things I was doing weren't going to get me where I wanted to go and or keep up with how the world around us in terms of technology and AI was changing. Because this happened before the explosion of AI and a lot of changes in the spaces.
This was back in 2005, correct?
Focuses in.
This was back in 2005, correct?
So we went through the transition in 2002.
Wow.
So 2003 was the year I was focused on just stability, don't change a lot, let's have some continuity. And 2024 is when I had to face some challenges to the business model that we had really kind of been really stable in for 10 years, 8 or 10 years, of the services we were offering, the types of clients we were working with, our pricing and contract structure and performance. KPIs for clients in the digital marketing world. And even, and we were still doing things like branding, and we were doing social media, all the different channels, and had to make some decisions and made those a couple of years ago and fully implemented them last year. Or last year was really 2025 was the first full year of them implemented with our more streamlined specialist. Instead of doing 12 things and everything for everyone, we only do 2 things. The things that we feel like we do as well as anyone. That was really the big change. It was in my mind back in 2022 and 2023, going actually back to, maybe 2017 or 18. But I was really able to make those changes and be brave and bold enough to do so just in the past 2 or 3 years.
Man, so I do want to get to the AI and all of the technology, but I want to start a little bit earlier. When you first took over, like 2002, you're saying, that's when
22.
I was doing 22, you said?
2022.
Okay, so where did the 2005 come in from? Or am
2005 is when the agency was originally founded.
Okay. You weren't working for them then?
No, I entered in 2013.
13
first time as an employee.
Okay. I'm like, you look way too young to be like way back there. And
yeah,
like,
exactly right. My career started in 2005, the exact same year as the agency was founded, but I wasn't aware of it until 2012 and started there as an employee in 2013.
Okay. Yeah, my mistake on that one. So, 2013, you take over. Technology is still not very good in terms of like, so what were like some of the typical projects you guys would do? Were billboards popular? Like, what were you working on?
Yeah, we were a creative agency at that time in name, but we had already been bolting on digital things. And so the agency was starting to dabble in some paid search ads and things like that. But my background, I came from a digital agency on the employee side and was running SEO, informally kind of running the paid search team, and had email marketing experience as well. And social media was still early.
Super early,
then. And
right?
so
Yeah.
I was looking at a well-rounded digital marketing kind of ecosystem, and that's exactly what Voltage wanted to add in 2013 because they were doing the branding and the big creative and the traditional advertising that you mentioned for a lot of brands, small and medium-sized companies, and even a couple of Fortune 500s. But and they were also doing websites for them. So they had started doing all the creative and agency of record type of stuff. Then and started in the late 2000s answering the question of, well, can you help me with my website? Added web development staff in-house. And then that next evolution was to add in a digital marketing team who could help drive return on investment and drive traffic and activity and engagement sales through those websites and to those
Gotcha.
clients. So that's really the evolution of where we went as we got bigger and bolted on more things and became more full service before our narrowing a couple of years ago.
Gotcha. Okay. And so tell me a little bit about on your website, you have something where we're not everything to everybody. We're very focused on certain things. What is that all about?
Yeah, that's really the direction we went 3 years ago as we started that. And I looked around, we had, a big staff and we had tried to cover, a whole range of things. And when we stacked our services in, good, better, best, there are only really 2 or 3 hit that best category where we felt like we can go up against anyone in North America or beyond and pitch and make true claims that we are in that top tier. We weren't doing bad work in the other categories of services, but we weren't known as an agency that was all about that one thing. And we were losing out to other agencies who were maybe a specialist on social media marketing or an agency that's only a branding agency when, we weren't leading with that. We were doing great work, but we weren't leading with that or selling that as, our number one service. We would get somebody in the door, talk about, why their marketing isn't performing, and then find that when we're updating their ads or updating their website that they are missing brand guidelines and there's gaps there. And so we kind of back our way into some of those things. So for us, we decided to, and it was kind of scary. I thought I'd do it over 3 years, but I ended up doing it in 1 year, turning over a lot of our client base when we stopped doing some of those things. And so for us, we do 2 things. We do search marketing under the digital marketing umbrella, and we do websites. And we feel like those are the things that we do the best, and search being both SEO and paid search, but those are the things that we feel like we do the best. And we we have great partners who are other agencies or resources who we feel like are of the same caliber we are in those 2 categories, in the other things that we no longer do and beyond, that will either bring in or refer out to for anyone who needs more than just those couple of channels and things from us. And so for us, that allows us to stay purely focused. About 95% of our work is purely in those 2 things that we say we do.
Right.
And that way we're not stringing anybody along, working with a junior level person or our one person who might be the social media person who has to try to do it across 20 industries and 50 clients or whatever.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's pretty cool, and I'm glad it's working out. So for the search part, especially with the onset of AI and LLMs being really, really big, and I've even heard, I think, rumor, I'd have to confirm this, but you can now start advertising with some of these LLMs. That's like a new thing that's coming out. So, think, hey, who's the best electrician in Sarasota? And then ChatGPT basically says, hey, the number 1 is electrician 1, 2, 3. Why? Because they paid the most, or it's like cost per click or whatever the case is.
Yeah, I'm hopeful that Google over the years in its search results page has changed how obvious it is of something that's an ad versus how it kind of blends in being a sponsored result or whatever. I'm hoping that we at least have that level of transparency in LLMs when we're seeing a result, and that it's not just baked in behind the scenes and we have no idea if that answer we're getting or that recommendation.
Well, here's the thing. Yeah, here's the thing that I'm thinking now that you mentioned that is I'm not so worried that it's a sponsored ad, because I can then also do my research, right? Because every person, every human being on earth is eventually going to have their own LLM, their own AI agent. that says, hey, this is the best because ChatGPT says it's the best, but I did some legwork. And yes, in fact, they have 5,000 reviews, all 5 stars. They always show up on time. They have automations built in. You don't have to wait. There's no voicemail. So it'll also validate that, yes, in fact, they're the best. So it's kind of like, not only are you just pushing the number one person on your list, but you also have the means to validate that, yes, in fact, they should be up there, at least in the top 5.
Yeah, the equivalent of Google's massive team that fights spam and people trying to exploit algorithms will probably be built into our agent, and we'll have our own essentially anti-spam and scam function built in.
And scam.
It
Yes.
would be crazy because that's always been one of the challenges, and no matter what we're looking at in digital is validation of, are they playing the games, are they doing gray and black hat tactics to get themselves there, or are they paying to get themselves there, versus is it justified? And in some cases it's justified, right? Because the advertiser is advertising to add another layer and make sure they don't get missed, and they are legit and should be there, like many of the clients that I work with, versus those that try to buy or cheat or exploit their way to get there too, and then being able to validate that, to your point.
Gotcha. Nice. So what are some of the tactics that you guys are employing in order to get your clients higher up on those LLM searches?
Yeah, and there is so much buzz out there. I write for Search Engine Land at Search Engine Journal, and even writing on our own blog and things from my team and the leaders of my digital marketing team, and both paid and organic. There's so much. For a while, it was everyone trying to coin the next term. Is it GEO? Is it LL? All these different terms. And a lot of people doing research, and we have some of our own data as well. A lot of people putting things out there, wanting to be the first to break new data, break news, name what it's going to be, talk about the evolution. There are a lot of I have a lot of colleagues who don't want to sign up for where this world is going in this next iteration, evolution, and are kind of exiting the space. And there are a lot of new people trying to exploit it and figure out how it works. There are a lot of things I see happening right now that are working to get visibility in LLMs that feel like really old, bad SEO from like 20 years ago. Things I remember back then, that the LLMs aren't as sophisticated on understanding some of the trust signals and validation of things yet. Now, that gap will close pretty quickly, I'm confident, as they get smarter and new models continue to emerge, and they just dial things in those models to be able to detect trust signals better and validate. And as humans influence it, open source as well, with how they interact with results. But right now, while there's so much buzz about what works and doesn't, it's a lot of small sample sizes. And so I'm not discrediting anything that any of my colleagues and friends in the industry are saying and showing that works. But there's a lot of what, if you've kept your SEO practices from getting out of date, even just the last 2 or 3 years, there's a lot of things that overlap. So for us, a lot of the strategies are similar. And I'm not talking about like SEO there are a lot of things that have really changed in terms of optimization and trust factors with content, and still relying on good technical SEO and things like that work really well. And so we see a bigger overlap than some people. But again, and I'm not calling anybody out, but when people are like, SEO is dead for the millionth time, you guys, it's been said for 20 years, my 20-something year career, it's the old ways. Some of the old ways are dead. But again, that shows where you are in terms of migrating and moving to new ways of approaching it. We actually created an SEO and AI POV mid-year last year, and I think it does a great job of kind of talking about what's fluff, what we know, and what we don't. And it's still, while it feels like ChatGPT and AI and LLMs have been around for a long time now, since
it seems like
all day, we are still in early phases.
Yeah.
And things are changing constantly.
So are you saying that the SEO portions or some of the methodologies that you use to apply proper SEO can still be applied and then be effective within the LLM?
In general, yes. We don't have separate strategies currently for search results or search engines and LLMs. It's getting murky in some cases, as we have to, we have ways to track LLM traffic separate from search traffic, and we are reporting on that and validating that. but the reporting of like impressions, visibility to impressions is different between a search engine and LLM. So how we look at it is different, but on the front end of how we influence content and decisions and structuring websites and pages and being found is still probably an 80% or more overlap in our strategies overall.
Right. Okay. Yeah, because I do see what's happening is, historically there's a Google search and then it shows you, let's say 10 listings and it says, go at it. And then you have to click through each listing to go try to do your own research. Well, that's progressed now with Google's AI, which recommends certain things right off the bat. It answers questions. It gets you the answer a little bit quicker. So no longer going through the 10 links. Now, the next iteration of it is, let's say I'm trying to buy something, right? Like a pen in my hand. So I search for it and it sends me links to the best shopping sites. And maybe one's Amazon, one's Walmart, Target, whatever the case is. Then I have to go cross compare, find the best value, who's got the coupon, and then ultimately go buy the pen. So the natural progression is Google will just do that legwork for me and then say, hey, I've already done the research. The best pen is this. And then you just buy it. And now if you're a digital marketing agency, then you have to now get your clients to be that one pen recommendation, right? And for that, it takes a little bit of understanding of what is this algorithm looking for? Is it truly just looking for the cheapest product with the best quality? Well, then that's just business, right? At the end of the day, you just get the right products and qualities in place and let the LLMs figure out what they're going to do anyway. I guess there's no way to cheat the system.
And in many cases, those things that you just mentioned go back to making sure that we didn't skip some steps of building a strong brand, be able to communicate and message out there the features and benefits of it. Because I don't have any clients who are the low price leader on something or selling the commodity. Like they're selling some type of premium or value add or service offering where they're not positioned to be, if it gets all the way through to the lead funnel on a service to the sales team and they're getting beat up overpriced, something was wrong in getting that person there. It was mistargeted. Same thing with e-commerce. If they are losing the sale because somebody's price shopping everywhere, same thing, whether it's a human going through that Google manual experience you're talking about or an LLM, if we're getting the wrong people, we just wasted a whole bunch of marketing time and investment to get that traffic to not convert. Gotcha. And so this is where it's fun for me because it goes back to what we've talked about and known we should do forever in the advertising and marketing industry. And what we talk about of getting one-to-one, meet that target audience person where they are and sell just to them and have it be so tailored that it feels like the experience and the product that you're bringing to them from awareness all the way down to purchase and then even customer lifetime value. Well, we lost that when we could do things in mass and we could go just put things out there and blast it out to the world much more cheaply than doing traditional advertising or TV or a billboard. When we could just put it online and hit everyone and who cares about the wasted impressions, we kind of lost some of that. And so you have to be really focused on who your target audience is in the new world we're in, because again, if you're getting less traffic, you have to have it be higher quality traffic. Exactly. And so while we've always preached quality, not quantity, we're getting forced into actually doing what we say now in terms of digital marketing.
Exactly, because quantity doesn't matter anymore because AIs are very good at just sifting through all of the noise and then just finding exactly what the right item is. So you took over in 2022, if I have my timeline right this time. How did you do in the first year? Like, are you comfortable talking numbers? How did you do in 22? If you took over in 22, let's talk about 23, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, 2022 was similar, or 2022 and 2023, the years where I wanted to keep everything kind of stable and incremental, were that. 2023 is where I started to look at the business model overall, and 23 and 24 were years. 23 up to mid 24 where we looked at niching down and narrowing our service line and what we do best. And that's where I had to find efficiencies because I would have ongoing agreements and retainers, projects, and lots of ups and downs, and like I said, 12 service lines essentially to manage, and not all were performing similarly. We had grown going through 2021, we had grown tremendously as well. So a lot of operational things broke, a lot of processes, a lot of hiring. A lot of things needed to be documented and updated. We were still recovering from some of that too, of getting systems and processes documented, standardized, everyone working off of those versus doing it a different way out of your head, or doing it out of your head and not
Yeah.
being able to translate that. So we had all those operational challenges in addition to sales and positioning of where do we want to go in the next however many years and how are we doing that. So we started getting serious about that, and that's what led to we've stayed stable on the revenue side all the way through, which I'm proud of, while also rebuilding essentially the company under the hood, rebuilding the engine as we went. And so we have found efficiencies and be able to structure our refined 2 services and turn over 50% of our client base in 1 year. And see the benefits now. So starting in mid 24 and all the way through 25, that roadmap has played out really well for us in terms of efficiencies, profitability, and being able to leverage new technology, have standardized processes, and to be able to
Good.
resource in-house accordingly.
That's awesome to hear. Okay. And so I imagine on that same scale, 25 was a good year. You just wrapped it up.
It was, yeah, it was a really good year. There were, like so many other agencies and businesses in general, Q2 was a little bit weird with the economy and
Right.
politics and all the things going on there, where sales cycles slowed down, but we finished the year strong and excited about where we're going here already in early Q1 of 2026.
Very cool. And so what's the total client count now that you guys control?
Yeah, what's interesting is years ago, before we narrowed down, we had probably 70 to 80 active clients, which was crazy in terms of just the infrastructure and overhead to manage that many relationships and to try to do it really well. We're down to around 30, maybe just under 30 now, ongoing marketing clients that we're managing. And then you can sprinkle in, website and one-off project work that we're doing as well. And I feel like we have a better pulse and deeper relationship with every one of those clients as well. And so that for us is being a quality, not quantity type of equation
Exactly.
too. And that was one of the stated goals, was to go deeper with each client and have less clients total while having the same or greater revenue, obviously.
So if you're down to 30 clients, how many employees do you have for the company?
So we are a team of 8 in my team based out of Kansas City here. And we've got several other team members as well around the country.
Around the country. Oh, okay. So you're almost like at, what is it? One of your employees to like 2 or 3 clients to give that like white glove relationship type service?
And so we don't have a traditional account service team like a lot of agencies. Many agencies, that's their biggest team, is the person who's kind of the
Like
in
customer
between the
support,
client
yeah.
and the subject matter experts. We built it kind of backwards when we started building our digital marketing team, where our strategists were working directly with clients, as we didn't have that extra layer, because it didn't make sense for us to have someone in the middle trying to translate a lot of digital marketing nerdery and talk
Yes.
about algorithms, and then to be billing them extra hours that they didn't have in their budget or that could have been going to something else. As we refine that, we do have a client success function now, and dedicated resources, but they are more project management or strategist minded than they are just transactional
Exactly.
day to day. And so that's an area where even the lead of my web team is the lead for a handful of clients where it makes sense for there not to be extra barriers there. The lead of my digital marketing team is the lead strategist for several. My VP of strategy has some direct relationships, and where he's almost like a CMO, an outsourced CMO. So it's spread around, but it's centralized as a function, but it's spread around where the right expert is talking directly with the client.
That's
and
beautiful.
not.
That's perfect.
Yeah. And so that helps us in terms of efficiencies, and clients feel heard, and it doesn't add extra layers of billings and bureaucracy for them too.
Yeah, that makes too much sense, because you'll have like a salesperson, or customer success or whoever is talking to a customer, and then the customer is like, hey, I need a gadget. And then this person literally just runs to the warehouse and goes, hey, do we have a gadget? And the person's like, yeah, we have a gadget, and come back. Yeah, we have a gadget. And it's like, no, not that one. We need something different. And then it's like, why don't you two just talk to each other, right? It's not like I have these amazing skills in the middle of like speaking English or whatever the language is that they want to translate in. So that makes a lot of sense. Okay, I know we have to wrap it up, but what are your plans? First, I want to ask, what is your ideal customer? Because only 30 people can get into the door apparently right now. So like, it's really challenging. What is the perfect customer that you would accept today?
Yeah, for us, really, while there are some industries that you'll see some patterns in if you look at our client roster, like logistics or professional services firms like architecture, engineering, and construction, the AEC category. That's really one big category for us. But really, the commonalities for clients that work with us, many of them, or most of them, are professional services firms. They want leads, but not necessarily the quantity of leads like we talked about, but quality. They have a longer sales cycle that maybe is more sophisticated or technical. So a lot of content marketing and optimization happens, whether that's a 3-month or 3-year sales cycle of nurturing. They're typically based somewhere in North America and have at least someone in a marketing role on their side who is our lead counterpart. And again, it comes back to they need more leads, cheaper leads, or higher quality leads, something around that financial conversation, not just us throwing it over the fence, but we get really deep in understanding their CRM and their sales process and what makes them money and working backwards from there, which doesn't seem that unique to me, but I found, unfortunately, and I know thinking about Corey 10, 20 years ago, as just a marketer, would be nervous having that conversation because that gets out of the things I can control with SEO and optimization and things like that. But we've learned over the years how to be in that more CMO's head or CEO's head and thinking like them. And so anyone who has any questions about those is an ideal person for us to talk to, whether we end up working with them and being the right fit or not. That's where we start is trying to understand that if they kind of fit those categories. But we like to nerd out and have a conversation
So
with
AEC
anyone who might have a
folks,
question in those topics.
AEC folks, longer sales pipeline. And then for this year, 2026, what are some expansion or additional products that you're thinking of? What are you doing to improve the overall company?
Yeah, so we're fully leveraging, and we're doing 3, which is about where we want to be max here in the first month of the year, 3 digital marketing strategies. And so we call that the Digital Marketing Success Plan. I actually wrote a book about it. And that's our key starting point for most of our clients is going through what we call the START, which is an acronym, a 5-step planning process that we do over the first 6 to 8 weeks, typically, to line out their entire digital marketing plan. And it goes through everything from how do you make money to, okay, here's the ready to execute plan that we roll into implementing with them or in partnership with them, or they can take it and run with it on their end if it makes sense. And so that is, we're fully leveraging that because that is the powerful way that we've been able to articulate and standardize our process, but it works for such a multitude of companies, no matter where they are, to get them that documented plan and not have it be left to chance or out to, let's just go try this for a while and see if it works. Well, that's an expensive thing.
I know. That could be an expensive learning lesson in a course. So where can folks find you, Corey?
Yeah, so the agency is Voltage.Digital. If you want to learn more about the book and the Digital Marketing Success Plan, that's a long title, so I've shortened it to the DMSP.com. And so that site will have information about that process that I mentioned, and also link you over to Amazon for anyone interested in buying it, and or for any other conversations or for any media things for me, it's CoreyMorris.com as well.
Awesome. Sounds good. We'll put all the links in the description. We'll put it on the screen as well. Thank you very much for your time, Corey. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Sonic.
Thank you.